Imagine if every move you made in your daily life was monitored and documented by an occupying force. Not just what you say online, but also what you do offline. This dystopian scenario has been an ongoing reality in the occupied Palestinian territories for decades. And the reason why people are being surveilled? Simple. They are Palestinian. Daily activities like meeting friends or going to work or school can be considered acts of resistance by the Israeli state, with Palestinians facing consequences like being patted down or harassed, be it physically or verbally. It doesn't end there. Palestinians are also hunted by the constant threat of being detained, sometimes indefinitely, and mostly without any valid or legal reason. Surveillance of Palestinians did not start on October 7. The practice dates back to over 100 years ago. During the British Mandate for Palestine, the Brits gathered intelligence to manage the local populations of the Middle Eastern territories they were occupying through a network of offices called the Arab Bureau. The British even created village files cataloging key local leaders called Mukhtars and grading their resistance levels, a practice that was adopted by Zionist paramilitary groups like the Haganah. These intelligence operations were crucial in the lead-up to the widespread ethnic cleansing that was carried out by Zionist militias in 1948, when villages across Palestine were destroyed and 750,000 Palestinians were violently expelled from their homes and lands in what's known as the Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe. The surveillance infrastructure developed by the British and then co-opted by Zionist militias laid the foundation for Israel's modern surveillance system. Today, Israeli military checkpoints and the draconian permit system are supported by facial recognition cameras and algorithms tracking the movement of Palestinians across the occupied West Bank and occupied East Jerusalem. One of the systems Israel uses to group and categorize Palestinians is an AI database known as Wolfpack, enabled and implemented by facial recognition software called Red Wolf, and an app used by Israeli forces called Blue Wolf, plus a White Wolf app granting illegal settlers access to the compiled data. The system collects photos, ID numbers, and even license plates of Palestinians without their consent to build profiles of every Palestinian resident of the occupied West Bank and to create a vast and illegal database, dubbed Facebook for Palestinians by a former Israeli soldier. The system is, however, far more draconian than the social media platform and imposes a very dystopian reality upon Palestinians. After collecting biometric and personal data on Palestinian residents of the occupied territories to build up an extensive database, Israel then uses this database to cross-reference Palestinians with past detentions or incidents in order to place them into 3 color categories: red, yellow, or green, according to their perceived threat factor. Here's a scenario demonstrating how Palestinians are controlled and oppressed by this system. Imagine a young Palestinian man from an old village in occupied Palestine who has never been detained nor registered at an Israeli checkpoint. One day, he decides to visit a sick relative in occupied Hebron, a place he cannot access without passing through a checkpoint. As he enters the checkpoint, a yellow light flashes on the screen, and the camera snaps his photo. It doesn't immediately recognize him, so it stores his image in the database, alongside those of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. From now on, every checkpoint he crosses through in the occupied Palestinian territories will know who he is, scanning his biometrics against a growing network of data obtained through Israel's extensive surveillance apparatus. Later, he must cross another checkpoint. As he passes through the turnstile, a soldier he has never seen before says, "Hey Ahmad, how are you today?" At that moment, he realizes he has been registered in Red Wolf and will from now on be tracked, categorized, and marked with a color that will determine his fate, every time he enters a checkpoint. Will he be allowed to pass? Will he be interrogated? Or worse yet, will he be detained? The architecture of the occupied West Bank has been transformed into one that operates as if it was an illicit, voyeuristic, photographic studio. And every occupied Palestinian city is just one software update away from being monitored around the clock via Israel's facial recognition systems. In places like occupied Hebron, Palestinians live under particularly extreme surveillance, with over 40 checkpoints and hundreds of cameras positioned across the city, many which include 4K resolution facial recognition technology that can track individuals from up to 200 meters away. Occupied Hebron is referred to by the Israeli army as a smart city, a euphemism deriving from its extensive surveillance architecture. CCTV and facial recognition cameras line the streets, giving the Israeli military and intelligence agencies 24/7 access to Palestinian life. Surveillance through the occupied Palestinian territories has become a distressing, everyday embodiment of the oppression, dispossession, dehumanization, and humiliation Palestinians are subject to. And it doesn't stop at state surveillance. Illegal settlers are using Israeli tech to intimidate Palestinians. In addition to the systems implemented by the Israeli military, there are those employed by illegal settlers. In occupied Hebron, for example, settlers have their own independent security cameras, often funded by the US-based One Israel Fund. These systems, which include drones with infrared technology, monitor Palestinian villages and disrupt daily life, scaring away livestock and undermining the livelihoods of Palestinian farmers. Settlers also use drones to monitor Palestinian homes, while Israeli intelligence units like 8200 spy on Palestinians to exploit societal vulnerabilities. Surveillance is also personalized, with intelligence officers sometimes making threatening phone calls in Arabic.
أنا بس بدي أحكي إحنا صار لنا كثير وقت بنرافق فعاليات أبو نضال.
For Palestinians in the occupied territories, every aspect of life is lived under the shadow of surveillance. Mundane decisions like whether to leave the house are contingent on a calculus around whether surveillance will be present, with a constant feeling of uncertainty pervading every action. If someone leaves the house, will they come back that day or ever?